They say some curses are born not from evil spells, but from the weight of our own choices. Tonight, under the blood moon's gaze, we meet a warrior who discovered that the most dangerous enemy was the one staring back from his own reflection. This is the story of the Bloodveil Knight and the battle that never ends. In the shadow of forgotten mountains, villagers huddle behind locked doors when the moon turns the color of spilled blood. They speak in whispers of a figure that walks between worlds shrouded in a crimson veil, that moves like liquid shadow, wearing armor marked with runes that pulse with otherworldly light. The old texts tell of a blade so jagged it seems to drink darkness itself, thirsting not for victory, but for something far more precious, the very essence of souls. The Bloodveil Knight appears only when the moon bleeds across the sky and vanishes with the first touch of dawn. But legends, as we'll discover, rarely tell the whole truth. For this is not a tale of a monster hunting the innocent. This is something far more terrifying and far more human. Look closer at this figure of dread. The armor bears not the marks of evil, but of nobility corrupted. Each rune tells a story not of dark magic, but of oaths sworn and honor cherished. The blade he carries wasn't forged in hellfire, but in the furnace of his own regret. It doesn't hunger for the souls of others, it feeds eternally on his own. Who was this knight before the veil fell across his face? Before the weight of perfection became a prison? Once, he stood as everything a knight should be, brave, noble, unwavering in his pursuit of righteousness. But perfection, pursued without mercy even toward oneself, becomes its own kind of curse. The runes on his armor don't grant him power. They remind him, with every breath, of every moment he fell short of his own impossible standards. And the veil? The veil hides not a monster's face, but the tears of a man who could never learn to forgive himself. Every blood moon, the same ritual unfolds. Not a hunt for victims, but something far more tragic. In the still waters of a forgotten pool, he sees what haunts him most, not his sins, but his former self. The night he used to be stares back with eyes unclouded by failure. And then, as it has for countless nights, his former self steps from the reflection, armor gleaming silver in the moonlight, sword bright with righteous purpose. The battle begins, not good versus evil, but present versus past. Every strike of his jagged blade meets the pure steel of who he once was. Sparks fly like falling stars, and the sound of their combat echoes through the night. His former self fights with the confidence of the unburdened, each move precise, honorable, everything a knight should be. But the Bloodveil Knight carries the weight of experience, of knowledge, of all the ways good intentions can lead to unintended harm. Neither can win, neither can lose. They are the same soul, torn between the impossible standard of who he thought he should be, and the painful reality of who he actually is. This is his curse, to battle himself until dawn, every blood moon, for eternity. But what created this eternal struggle? What moment of failure was so profound it split a soul in two? Picture a battlefield, a choice made in an instant that cost lives. Good people, trusting in his judgment, following his lead into disaster. The weight of their sacrifice carried not with wisdom, but with crushing self-condemnation. The curse wasn't cast by witch or demon. It was forged in the fires of guilt that refused to cool, shaped by a perfectionist's inability to accept that even the noblest hearts can make tragic mistakes. The Bloodveil isn't mystical, it's the physical manifestation of shame. The runes don't hold magical power, they're every harsh word he's ever spoken to himself, carved in light upon his soul. And his nightly battle, it's every internal argument between self-compassion and self-destructs, played out with swords and armor in the moonlight. He doesn't fight demons. He fights every voice in his head that says he's not worthy of forgiveness, every doubt that whispers he should have been better, every impossible standard that demands perfection from a fundamentally imperfect being. But tonight, this blood moon, something changes. As dawn approaches and both versions of himself grow weary from their eternal combat, the Bloodveil Knight sees something in his noble self's eyes. Not judgment, not disappointment, but understanding. His former self speaks, voice clear as morning bells. You carry burdens I never had to bear. You know pain I was too young to understand. You've learned truths I was too naive to see. The people you couldn't save, they wouldn't want you to carry this weight forever. The mistakes you made, they were made by someone trying to do good in an impossible situation. For the first time in centuries of nightly battles, the Bloodveil Knight lowers his weapon not in defeat, but in understanding. His former self extends a hand not to an enemy, but to another part of himself that deserves compassion. As dawn breaks and he begins to fade, the knight realizes something profound. Self-forgiveness isn't about winning against your flaws. It's about accepting them as part of the whole person you are. The veil remains, but its weight grows lighter. The battle ends not in victory, but in integration. The clearing stands empty now, touched only by morning dew. Where blood once seemed to stain the earth, there's only the crystal clarity of new beginnings. The Bloodveil Knight's story teaches us something profound about the battles we fight in the quiet moments when we face ourselves in the mirror. The hardest battles are indeed the ones within yourself, but they are also the only ones where true victory means learning to find peace with who you are, flaws and all. We all carry armor marked with the runes of our regrets. We all wield blades sharpened by self-criticism. And we all face our former selves in the mirror, wondering if we've lived up to who we thought we'd be. But perhaps the real lesson isn't about winning those battles, it's about learning when to lower your sword and extend your hand instead. What in a battle have you been fighting? What would it look like if, instead of trying to defeat that part of yourself, you learned to understand it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes the most powerful step towards self-acceptance is simply admitting the fight exists. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button for more tales that explore the deeper truths hidden in legendary figures. And remember, you don't have to wait for a blood moon to begin making peace with yourself. The dawn is always coming.